Okay.
I
Well,
got
that's
absolute.
fine.
I have me.
You have
I
you?
I have me
Are
to
you in a
offer.
good mood on this 28th of April?
Yeah, pretty good. I'd
Yeah?
say I'm shooting up to about 65%.
65. Okay.
Well, it's still higher than you.
Oh, it is today. Yeah, I'm about 42.5%.
42?
Yeah, I don't know why. Kind of
What
low
happened,
energy.
darling?
I don't know. I don't know. I just got a couple of things I'd like to share with you. Bernie St-Laurent is in the waiting room.
Okay.
So we'll talk to Bernie in just a sec. I just
Good
wanted
to
to
talk
throw
to
this
Bernie. I
in.
haven't talked to him in ages.
In Genoa, Italy, they're adding the last section to the new bridge they built after the collapse. It'll be 2 years. Remember that in August
Yes.
2018? 43 people died. And I think the premier or the prime minister is there this morning, or I guess this afternoon in Genoa to put in that last section. They were just going at her right through the pandemic restrictions too. So they were working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to get this done. And it's, to me, I like this kind of stuff. I like construction. I like this technology, but it's also an indication that, shit's getting done and people are still moving along and looking
Jeez, you
forward
did that
to.
all by yourself this morning, did you?
I did. I did this entire
Amazing.
animation in 3D this morning at about 5:30. And
Yeah,
even,
well,
even,
you're always up and busy.
even the supers, it took me a hell of a time to get these little bulldozers all going straight across the bridge. But
You like little
I
bulldozers,
do.
don't you?
I do like little bulldozers. So thumbs up
Boy.
and a big howdy doody, which is a stupid thing to say. But anyway, to the folks of Genoa and Italy, looking forward to getting shit done and moving things along. So good for you. And one other little quick note, Brooklyn Nine-Nine Season 7 is on. If you're looking for something silly to watch, easy to
Yeah.
digest, Andy
Yeah.
Samberg and company. It's and
He
Andre
gets on my
Brower.
nerves sometime, but the rest of the cast is great. Although he's not bad. He's
I mean,
not bad.
it's snappy, and Andre Brower as the captain is just
Yeah.
priceless. So
He's superb.
that's something
Superb.
something to watch. There you go. Let's bring Bernie Saint-Laurent in here to
All
see how
right.
Manonc is doing. Salut Manonc.
There he is. Good morning, Bernie.
On t'entend pas, Manonc. I think his audio is just coming on.
Voilà.
There
There
we
we
go. The
go.
magic hand of God.
How are you, Manonc?
There he is.
Not bad, not bad. How are you?
We're
We're
doing
good.
fine. Yes, some days are better than others.
Yeah.
Let's start from the beginning. What's keeping you busy these days, Bernie?
Well, right now I'm spending a lot of time focusing on the COVID situation and politics, because I do a weekly column for Daybreak radio show on that all both of you know quite well.
Yeah.
And before the outbreak, I was volunteering with an association called the RTP, the Recovery Transition Program. It's it's an organization that helps people who are finishing up with their treatment in hospital for mental health issues or addictions. And we've set up a peer mentor organization. And for the last 4 years, I've been pretty active with that.
That
So
sounds
that's,
very admirable. Do you have one? Are you the mentor to one person, several people? How does it work?
well, it started with one person. You always work one-on-one. And then it came to a point where I had three. And then they asked me to become what they call a supervisor, which was basically my job. Was oversee the mentors in terms of, we have a weekly meeting. They come in and talk about what's going on, problems that they may have had. And my role was to kind of help work out some kind of solution or for that. So I did that for.
So in the midst of this pandemic now, you're busier than ever, I presume.
Yes, except that the work at the hospital and the addiction center is stopped because we can't meet in person. So some peer mentors are working with people online, but we're not having any formal one-on-one
Of
sessions,
course.
or
Of
at
course.
least I'm not. Yeah.
All right, let's go back to the media. Your view on things. This could get rather convoluted, but there's been, let's just start with the more recent evolution. There's been a bit of a turn now, and as they are looking at the déconfinement and sending the kids back to school and all of that, the bloom is off the rose with Arruda and Legault and all of this. What's your assessment as of today?
Well, I think that they're entering a difficult or a challenging period right now. If the earlier period wasn't, what I mean by that is the problems in the seniors residences has kind of made people wonder about how well the government was managing the situation, because before that, the approval ratings were 95% for Legault and the way he was handling it. But the crisis in the CHSLDs is really shaken people, I think. And with the announcements yesterday about the school reopenings, and today there'll be the news about the plan to relancer l'économie.
Yep.
That's where it becomes much more not necessarily unanimous. In other words, some people will agree, others will disagree. You know, do you want the school? Do you want your kids to go to school or not? Does it make sense to do this? Should you wait? You know, so there's beginning to be a lot of questioning actually, and it'll increase today with the announcement of the plan for the economic opening of the Quebec economy.
Bernie, yeah, both you and I are grandparents, and
Yes, sir.
both you and I are grandparents, and I got to tell you, pal, I'm a little bit nervous about my 5-year-old and my little one going back to a daycare as soon as May 11th, as are their parents. Very nervous
Yes.
about this. It seems why not wait? What's Legault's reasoning there?
Well, they have different opinions from different people. I should say we were socially distancing at my son-in-law's on Saturday, and his reaction was, okay, so they want canaries to go down the gold mine. I'm not sure I want my kid to be the canary. Get in touch with me when the situation is safe. And I think there are a lot of parents who feel that way. And the thinking is that the children don't, the disease doesn't hit them as hard, are not as many, and they have to start somewhere. That I think is
yeah, and I don't really find that particularly comforting as a grandparent.
But this
way.
is all conjecture, isn't it? It's conjecture at this point. No one knows. We don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
So that's what the discussion is all about on the air this morning, and all the editorialists are talking about this. But is it not damned if you do and damned if you don't on the part of Legault and company here? And of course, Trudeau's backing off on this, but
well, so did Legault actually. You know, I mean, not so much an opening, but in terms of pushing the idea of herd immunity. Last week, it's interesting. Last week he said it's because we need herd immunity that we have to get things going again. And then yesterday, when he announced the opening of the schools, he said, no, we're not sure about that. There are diverging opinions. So that's not the reason why we're doing this. So
because it's funny, in a lot of ways, until the seniors' homes hit, he had not made a misstep. Now, the seniors' home was a crisis we knew was there, but could avoid before COVID-19. We knew those places were badly wrong.
Horrible. Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's not only Legault's or the CAC's fault. It's not the Liberals' fault before that, or the Liberals before that, or the PQ. I mean, I got to tell you guys, there's a story I'll never forget. It was 1985. Pierre-Marc Johnson, who was leader of the PQ at the time, lost the election. We were having a conversation one day, and he said the biggest problem that this society is going to have to face is the aging of our population. And right now, the situation is the overcrowding in emergency rooms because the acute beds are filled with people who need chronic care. So what we need to do is to start dealing with that, and that will gradually improve the situation. That was in 1985, and there have been studies and reports. There was one by Michel Clair, former minister of the PQ, who essentially argued the same thing. I think the one guy who probably had the best solution was Régent Hébert when he was Health and Social Services Minister in Pauline Marois' government. His focus was seniors and home care, so much so that when the federal election came along, he offered his services to Justin Trudeau, presumably to do the same thing. So he has a passion for this, and it's something that has been terribly neglected, and we're just realizing to what extent that is the case right now.
Well, in Quebec,
Yeah, I mean,
in Quebec, when you're,
sorry,
I'm sorry, David.
sorry, Yvon.
When in
Well, I was
Quebec,
just saying, Pierre Mark Johnson and all the other people you mentioned could read what demographics were. Bernie, you and I and Yvon are these baby boomers, and we're all seniors now.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, there's another problem, and one of the reasons why Legault is, I'm told he's pretty livid behind the scenes, is the bureaucracy. I mean, if you look at the level of bureaucracy in health and social services, you wonder how they can get anything done. I mean, there are 300,000 people in Quebec who work in the healthcare system, and yet they have problems finding people to fill these jobs. While at the same time, the system gets heavier and heavier, because each time a government tries a reform, they don't eliminate jobs. They just add them on to what was there already. So there was a wonderful cartoon by Chapelot, I think it was last week, where he had a picture of the bureaucracy and all of the levels, and it's just mind-boggling. And all you have to do, David, is have gone to one of those meetings, whether it was the CRSSS or the CIUSSS. They talk about structures and systems. They don't talk about people. And it's understandable in a way. It's easier to do that than to actually get down there and change diapers on seniors.
Well, that's exactly the point. I was listening to Lise Bissonnette the other day, and she said that she's been pouring through reports looking to see exactly how many people go back and see their parents because in Quebec, quand t'es placé, t'es abandonné, is what it is. And, and you have to be on site to see what's going on, what kind of care is being preferred on your loved ones. I spent the better part of last year doing that for an elderly aunt. And if you're not there watching what's going on and you're just driving off and not paying attention, then you are in part responsible for what's going on.
Yes, that's true. But also by not allowing loved ones to visit because they're afraid that they might bring the virus in, they're taking away a part of the system that it's not official, but it's exactly what you're saying.
Yep.
It's going in and, okay, Grandpa, do you need some water? Are you okay? Can I prop up your pillows? And if you see something, you can go to the nurse and say, hey, so by preventing the loved ones from going in, I think
it's a double whammy here.
Yeah.
And the people asked to, Bernie, the people, you talk about 300,000 people in the system, the people asked to carry the can here, do the most dangerous work, are the frontline workers who are not as well trained as they should be, who do have to change the bedpans and change the diapers. And they don't want to go to work either because they have families.
Exactly, and they're not protected, and it takes an emotional toll. I mean, you see in one day 5 of your patients pass away. I mean, you cannot but be affected by that. Or holding the phone while the parents make their final goodbyes with their family. I mean, it is absolutely devastating. And the whole question of equipment. And, the two of the most important groups in society are those who are in early child care and those who work in those long-term facilities. And I don't understand how come they are paid, such a low wage. I mean, $13 an hour, in private home care facilities to be an orderly. For the work they do, that's ridiculous. That's our fault. We're the ones who should be saying
it's patently unfair. I
is
mean, it's
there-
so obviously unfair.
Yep.
That's right.
Is there political capital then in the coming years for Legault and company to clean this whole thing up and revamp it? Because you're looking at Europe too. Half the people who have died were in elderly care facilities. It's not
Yep.
quite as high in Ontario, but still, we see this everywhere. Is this going to be the next big project to clean this up?
Yeah. Well, I believe so, because they have no choice. But also, it was one of the things that the CAQ was promoting during the election campaign.
True
Remember
enough.
the résidence pour les aînés with
Yep.
big windows and lots of room and lots of space. And somebody said, "Well, forget the windows. Just get us people to help."
Yeah.
But also, Legault is a pretty proud guy, and this has been humiliating for him. So I'm pretty sure that they will definitely move to improve the situation, because to be to see it this dramatically, you can't help but be affected by it. And it's interesting.
There's criminality involved too, right? I mean, it's not just the one, people talking about nationalizing as opposed to private one, but that poor place, Héron, out in Dorval, I mean, that was just criminality.
Yes, and what's mind-blowing there is that the owner had a record, had a record for fraud, drug trafficking. I mean, and somebody said, if you're an orderly and you have a record, you can't work in a CHSLD. But if you've got a criminal record and you own it, you can own it. I mean, it's absurd. I just want to point out one other thing, guys, if you let me, about the Premier of Ontario. I don't know if you saw it, but last week at one point, he started talking about the situation in seniors' residences, and he talked about the fact that his mother-in-law was there, and he says, "You guys, you don't know, you have no idea how hard this is," and he actually started to cry. And that's such a contrast with the perception people have of Doug Ford, that his numbers. I know it's a little c'est pas gentil to look at it that way, but his approval ratings are keep going up.
Yeah.
He's showing to be a leader in ways that no one expected.
Yeah, and compassionate. And so, fellas, if I may get back to it, Bernie, this is why, well, it intensifies the debate about May 11th and sending kids back to school. And, we Yvonne and I talk about this all the time, and I know you probably talked about it in your column, is that we just don't know what we don't know. And as you say, canary in the coal mine.
Yeah. So that will be a real problem for them. I mean, the escape valve is you don't have to send your kids if you don't want to.
Right.
Okay. But still, it's the first big issue aside from the seniors' residences where there will naturally be disagreement in society, because some people might say, they need to get fresh air, get them out there, that it'll do them good, I'm not worried, because you see that reaction as well. So for him, from a political point of view, it's going to be a challenge for sure.
Wow, interesting to see. Bernie, thank you very much for your time, buddy.
Could we reconvene?
Yes.
Oh, I mean, there's just
we should do a regular analysis with Manouk here.
Okay. Yeah. Manouk, it's an inside joke. You should tell them what it is.
And we got to tell that story too next time.
Yeah.
Bernie, I'll let you tell that story, pal.
Oh, the other one. Oh my God.
Thanks, old man. We'll talk to you again.
Bye.
Thanks.
Guys. Bye.
Appreciate it, Bernie.
Bernard St-Laurent, the one and only.
I mean, we've got so many good political journalists in this province covering the National Assembly. And one of the
I'm
things
glad
Bernie actually wanted to
he's
talk.
still as interested as he was,
Oh,
because
yeah.
he's
Yeah. It's not a job to Bernie, but I don't know if there are very few people now who know more about Quebec than this guy does. And it was a pleasure to talk to him. And one of the things he actually wanted to talk about too, and we may in another occasion, is the difference between political communication, say, when he started in the National Assembly and the way it is today with the
yeah,
technology and how
I would like to
people
get
need to
into that
report.
with him too, because I have my own opinions, but I'd like to hear his, because it's a tough road to hoe, and you and I have talked about this on more than one occasion. And one of my pet peeves is when it gets into conjecture. And I mentioned that word earlier too. And if you watch Legault and Arruda now, they sit there way too long. And then when the ifs, ands, or buts start coming out, then they put themselves in harm's way. They get in trouble. They put their feet in their mouths. And this, unfortunately, is what has led, I think, to this, as I think you're suggesting, a rather hasty decision to move things along. Have I interpreted what you were
Oh,
saying
my
correctly?
my son-in-law, and my daughter are frightened. They were right now.
Yeah,
My kids aren't going anywhere May 11th,
yeah,
and I think that is where Trudeau has not been bad. I mean, he's usually criticized more than Legault is these days by a lot of people. Oh, let's get that prime minister up in Ottawa. There's a visceral dislike for the man. But when people do the conjectural stuff, that he cuts it off. He says, "That's I'm not gonna. I'm at least in the ones I've seen lately." He said, "We don't know anything about
yeah.
that."
That's it.
And I think Legault has done quite well, but he's starting to make more missteps as we go
Yeah,
along.
that's
This is a
right. And
tough road.
yes, it is. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, all right. That's it for
So
tomorrow. We'll
tomorrow,
a little lighter with Terrence Bowman, I think, is on
yeah,
tomorrow. Yes, there he is.
there he is,
Used to
screen
be
sharing.
with the vestibules, and
Yeah, and Terry's an actor,
yeah,
writer.
yeah.
I believe he does a little bit of everything, and he's a
So
fun guy to talk to.
good. We'll talk all about that demain.
All right, that's a good
Ciao.
one.